Welcome back, everyone. Mike Kula here and Anthony Grosso from Zebra. Glad that you're part of our podcast today. Today, we're going to talk about COVID-19 and how is it impacting our client base. Hey, Anthony, how are you?
How's it going, Mike? Good to see you last week at dinner in your office. It was nice to actually get out and see you guys for the first time in 7 months since we were out in Reno. Right?
Yeah. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. So, hey, Anthony, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do at Zebra and your role and all that stuff before we get started?
Yeah. So like I said in our last podcast, if you were listening, my main responsibility is helping partners like Avalon Integration manage their relationship with the entire Zebra organization. I'm basically your business manager within Zebra. And I'm invested in everything that you guys do for all your customers. And I do spend a good amount of time in my office, but I spend a lot of time out, as you know, with you guys, whether it's in your office, working on strategy or plans or going on customer visits, customer sites, warehouses. We go attend trade shows together and all that good stuff. It seems like a distant memory, but it's been quite some time, right? And
it has.
Recently, I actually work in my home office is in Holtzville, Long Island, and I only live about 15 minutes from there. So, I have the benefit of being in the office, even when I'm not on the road. And there's a big network of folks that I work with. We usually, on an average day, there's 600-700 people in that building. And, it's been very different since March, because I'm used to being around a lot of people, whether it's in the office or just whatever we're doing out on the road. And that all came to a screeching halt, as I'm sure it has for you and for our listeners. But I did recently have the opportunity to actually get back in my office to work through some demo equipment that I've had out for quite some time. And, it was a very unique experience. We take for granted what we've had in the past, and now how we have to structure our lives and our daily routines around this virus. But I had to go to the office, had to get permission. It was basically a time visit. I was there for a couple of hours. We had to get the whole management team to sign off on me going into the office. And right now that building has got a skeleton crew of maybe 20 folks. Mostly people like engineers or people working in labs using equipment that they really can't, they can't work from home. You and I can work from home.
Yeah.
But, there's some things I need to do in the office. I just couldn't do, so it was much easier for me to get in there. And
what was it like when you had to go there? Because I've been to that facility, and you're right. And I remember you used to go in and meet with security, and you had
usually you just
kiosks and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
You take my badge, swipe my badge in, and that was it. I was on my way. Now, first of all our badges were inactivated. So I had to get my badge reactivated. Before I actually went to the turnstile, I had to visit the security booth, of course, with a mask on and, keeping that 6 foot distance away from him. When I walked in the building, I had to get scanned by a thermal imager. And I felt like that character from Predator in the 80s, that movie from the 1980s. So I saw a whole thermal image of myself. But once I got, the A-OK to go into the building, swipe my badge, then I had to go back to the security booth, and he assigned to me a beacon. And we talked about this on our last podcast.
Yeah, the Bluetooth
it's
beacon.
A little Bluetooth beacon that was tied to my badge number, basically. And I had to walk around with that on my belt clip.
Okay.
And what it did was it actually tracked not all of my movements, but if I came within 6 feet of somebody else in the building for more than 15 seconds, it would actually track and tag in our system where I was, who I was in contact with, so that if Zebra had ever had to do any kind of contact tracing, if I, came in and 2 days later I said I was sick or something like that, they would have that information. And then all the other protocols of, walking in the right direction down the hallways. Again, you've been in that building. It's huge. And, I had to walk a certain way to my cubicle. I had to sit with a mask on at my cubicle, sorting through all the demo equipment. So needless to say, it was, not the most optimal experience. And I'm really not in a rush to get back to my office. Like I said, I really don't have a need to, because there's nobody there, first of all, that I work with. So I'd be sitting there alone. And, until some of these restrictions get lifted and we get back to normal, I think, for myself, and I know a lot of my coworkers, it's going to be the work from home norm for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that's I kind of understand that, right? I mean, I've been basically in my remote office at my house since March, and I was always a road warrior, right? I was on the road constantly. In my actual office, maybe a couple days every 2 weeks. And now, I don't go back there. I pretty much relocated, cleaned out my old office. Everything is in my home office now. It's pretty wild. I used to drive, as you know, about 3,000 miles a month, right, on my car. And,
right.
Put a lot of miles on my car. I actually bought a new car in February, right before the pandemic hit.
Yep.
It's
a nice looking car, by the way, Mike.
Well, thank you. But, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, one day I'm going to get stuck in the middle of the Pennsylvania Turnpike at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm going to be angry at myself because, I didn't update my car. And, I think I just hit 5,000 miles on that in like 8 months since I've owned it. Right. I just had to take it for its first oil change. That's how I know. So, really, really, really wild. And, did a couple customer visits out to Maryland and was out in Long Island. I think the biggest, I recently got a new dog, as you know, my dog Pablo, and he loves it that I'm working out of the house because he just hangs with me all the time. And he's become my best buddy. So, and it really impacted a lot of our salespeople because, again, we're, as you know, I run the sales team at Avalon, and we're focused on being out and helping our clients, right, and understanding, what's going on in their facilities and being an extension of their project teams. And everyone's pretty much had to be riding, sitting at home and working. So we've had to, adapt to using video cameras, and luckily, as an organization, all of our systems were already web-based.
Okay.
So, it was really, really easy to kind of pivot to that. But, what was interesting around, I'd say April is when no one really knew a lot what was going on. Or we had to pivot a little bit because our clients were like, hey, we're still operating. A lot of our clients were still operating at reduced capacities and, wearing masks and social distancing and all of the protocols. So we started doing a lot of COVID-19 signage, right, to alert people, because that's kind of like, the first thing, right?
Okay. Yep.
Be aware. And then we moved to UV light, right? So, there's been lots of talk in the news now, right? They're worried about the second wave coming in the fall, as people are more working inside, because when you're outside, the UV light and the fresh air is beneficial. That's even a good word to use, beneficial, but it's really helps you reduce your possibility of catching the COVID-19.
Right.
And we started selling UV light solutions where when people were using the shared mobile computers or scanners, they would literally put it in there for a couple of minutes and it would zap. I think it will kill the Ebola virus if that was on your mobile computer.
Really?
Right? The UV light is pretty wild. And, I have one client that actually put it over all of their cradles. So at night, when all their devices are there, they're being disinfected. And, a lot of shields, things like that, thermal imaging camera. We have some of those as well that we've seen and we've deployed at client sites. And it is kind of wild, right? You look at yourself in the thermal imaging camera and you're like, oh, boy. But I think the big thing that we're now starting to see amongst our clients is people are now starting to talk about contact tracing. So, you mentioned your guys, the Bluetooth beacons that you had to carry,
yep.
Which is, part of your MotionWorks solution, we have a contact tracing solution that utilizes a Bluetooth, the low energy Bluetooth radio and a wristband.
Kind of like a Fitbit kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks just like a Fitbit. And, similarly does what you're talking about, right? You get within 6 feet of someone, it vibrates, lets you know, hey, you need to back off. But more importantly, it records that interaction. So, in the event someone is positive or, more importantly, it might be positive, right? You're not sure, you can mitigate, right? And isolate the people that have been impacted by that. So it's, really, really exciting. I mean, we have two of our normal clients, pharmaceutical clients, they're part of that 15 that are in that stage 3 trials. And, we've supported them a lot. They've expanded a lot of their manufacturing capabilities because they're already making the vaccine as we go forward. So, kind of really cool stuff to deal with, in light of what's going on.
And have you been able to propose solutions without being on site? Or I know, with our solutions, it's hard to demonstrate device solutions or applications remotely. And, you really need to be in the customer's application to understand what they need. What your challenge has been around that? Have you been able to do that remotely or in person?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple customers where, they're coming up against a hard cutover of a new system where we've actually, because of time constraints, had to go on site and work with them. But, certainly we're sending out more demo equipment than we ever have before.
Yeah.
And, as we talked about in our last podcast with Android, we can do a lot of things remotely to control that device, right? That you couldn't do with previous versions of operating systems before Android. So that seems to work well. I mean, we've been fortunate enough where we've been able to pivot. Our sales team has done a good job working with our clients and interacting with them. Actually find a lot of times it's almost easier to get a hold of people, right?
Yeah.
Because people aren't distracted. They're at home. So they'll respond to an email a little faster than maybe, running around the meetings in an office building all over the place. And, for our clients, we've been fortunate. I mean, I'm blessed. I'm thankful for that. We have a couple clients that their business has just really exploded, right? The pharmaceutical guys that are making the vaccines, have to, deploy this technology to increase their manufacturing capability. We have one client that is a grocer. Okay. I forgot how many stores they have, a couple thousand grocery stores. And, their whole curbside delivery and stuff really just exploded. I mean, within 2 months, they deployed over 2,000 devices.
So they pivoted too, because you can't grocery stores just can't close. I mean, you still need groceries, right?
Yeah. They actually did something that I thought was kind of ingenious. They were I was shocked at what a cool thing it was. They had a number of store locations that had closed over the years, right? But they still owned it. They still had the leases on that. Okay. But they just weren't profitable enough to keep open as a full-line grocery store. When this pandemic hit, I would say within 30 days, they had reopened a lot of them, but they weren't really grocery stores. They were more like forward pick areas for a warehouse. So they would bring, X amount of products into that store, right? And they would arm people with mobile computers, and they would go and pick these orders. And then you would just have to drive by, open your trunk. You already had paid for it with your credit card. They load it into your truck, and you drive away. So they were really able to pivot and provide a better level of service for their customers in that area. Which I thought was just incredible. I never even thought about it, right? When I finally asked them what they were doing, they're like, "Oh, we're opening these old stores. We just opened 15 of them." I was like, "Wow, that's a great idea." So, and then I've had other clients that literally, when the pandemic hit, it was like turning off a spigot, right? And the water stopped. A couple clients. One was a provider. He did party rental type stuff. Right. And guess what? COVID-19 hits. No one's having a party.
No.
no one needs to rent anything. And, he went from, God, I think they must have had 900 employees to, it's a fraction of what that was before. So, I feel badly for them, but I know once we're past this pandemic, they'll bounce back. I'm hopeful for that. I have another vendor of ours that sells office automation, for desks, things like that. No one's going to the office, right? You guys were in the middle of a renovation, redoing all of your office space, right? With the movable desks and all the other stuff. And, none of that's being used anymore or purchased. So, I think it's going to be interesting. But then, we have a lot of clients that they just found new ways to do things, right? They may have sold a lot to brick and mortar, and their internet business has taken off. The idea of what the Grosso did with the stores that were closed. So that's kind of cool. We have another vendor that makes cases for mobile computers and scanners and things like that. And I just read their newsletter, and they now offer all types of protective equipment, masks and shields and all that other stuff because they had that manufacturing capability.
Right. Yeah.
So they're able to do that. And the one thing that I think is constant is people are resilient and people figure out a way to get it done. And, knock on wood, we've been able to do a good job. And I'm thankful for that and thankful for my team that has done that.
Yeah. I'm concerned, for some of these companies, like you mentioned, that are basically have gone, down to nothing. I hope that, they can bounce back quickly, and these other companies that have flourished in this environment, it's been good for them. It's been a positive out of this for them, for their customers, and mutually for us. So, hopefully the pendulum is going to continue to swing towards those companies that really turn things around and get back to business. But so, it's been interesting. One thing I did want to ask you though, in this podcast discussion, and maybe we'll take a quick commercial break first, but let's think about this. There's going to be a vaccine soon, like you said, we know that. Mm-hmm. And, what do you think as a provider of solutions, is going to happen with these companies once a vaccine is out there? What do you think that they're really going to choose as far as bringing their employees back safely? So let's take a few moments and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
When it comes to dependable worker safety, your workforce expects nothing less than your best. Explore all of Avalon's worker safety solutions to create a seamless system your team can count on.
Hey, welcome back, Anthony. So, you asked me a question before our break there is what do I think is going to happen with our customers and our clients once a vaccine is available? And, we all know it's happening. We know that a vaccine will be coming there. I think what's interesting and what I found is a lot of companies have used this time, us as well, to kind of relook at their processes. Mm-hmm. And, the way that they were doing things, do they really need to do that going forward, right? So, effectively up here in the Northeast, we've been, initially locked down since March, right? That's when this really hit up here full-fledged. And things, life has gone on, right? People are getting their job done for home, right? At home versus having to go into an office. So, I have one client, the large grocer that I talked about, they have pivoted to a lot of their payments and purchase orders and all that stuff is all going electronic, right? This is giving them that opportunity to do that. That didn't happen before. Right. They had someone that you went to the purchasing department, they cut a purchase order and they emailed it to you. Right. That's all electronic done via remotely. And, they've indicated that they don't know if they'll ever come back to their corporate offices, right? Because they may not need that, right? And we've seen lots of cases of that happen.
Right. Yeah.
So, the other thing I think that is we have found is with some of the contact tracing applications when we're in the pilot mode, the companies are really looking at the philosophy of when they return to work, changing the philosophy of their workers. So, in a lot of plants and manufacturing facilities and things like that, someone may have a cold may not be feeling well, and they kind of suck it up and go in. I used to laugh about my girlfriend Connie's kids, every time they had a sniffle, they're like, "Oh, I can't go to school." And I was like, God, when I was your age, my dad would be like, "You better be coughing blood, otherwise you go to school."
Right. Get out there in the snow and walk to school.
That's it. And and now what I'm hearing when I talk to some of our clients is they really don't. If you're not feeling well, they want you to stay home.
Yeah, don't be a hero.
Don't be a hero. That's right. So that mentality of changing the perception of, we only want you at work if you're feeling well and up to the job is, I think, happening. And then I think there's a lot of investment in automating the process, right? You're seeing a lot of robotics, reduction on the shared devices, as we talked about with, like your ring scanners and things like that. So people are looking at technology to invest where, they don't need to use a shared device. They don't need to, continue to do the things that they always did in the past, right? Because they could do it a little bit differently. And they've had, the 7 or 8 month window to kind of think that through, right? And say, oh, well, what if we did it this way, this would work. So, I do think, we will get back to normal one day. It's just going to look a little bit different. And, you and I are getting older in our age, and we've seen this, right? You kind of swing to one side, and then you swing to the other, and then it kind of comes right back.
In the middle.
Right in the middle. So, so I'm waiting. Hopefully we can have more dinners together, and waiting for the vaccine to get out there, and waiting to go back and see some more of our clients.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get out in front of customers too with you, and really help them solve some of these new problems and new applications that they're thinking about now in this time, and coming up with new solutions for them. And,
Absolutely.
We were talking about heroes. I'm sure you're going to agree with me that we really should call out the real heroes out there, that they don't have an option of working from home like we do. The ones that go to the hospitals and police and firefighters and first responders, teachers, they don't have a choice. So those are we got to get back to better. We got to get better for all of them so that we're all in the same place back in business.
Absolutely. So, hey, Anthony, so it was great talking to you. But, I'm glad to hear that you and your family, everyone's doing well. And again, enjoyed dinner last week with you, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the next conversation. Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.